Okay, now I'm going to talk a little bit about the name of God in the Hebrew Bible and in Judaism in general. Um, by the way, you don't have to worry about taking notes on this if you don't want to. None of this is going to be on the test. This is just for those who might be interested in the topic. And so if you're not, you can go ahead and turn off the video right now. In the second paragraph on page 62, the author of our textbook says, in the Shema, that's the Jewish creed, the word for God is El, who is called Adonai. Okay, well, that's all sorts of wrong. In the Shema, the name for God that's used is Elohim. Um, Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu. Eloheinu is a variant of Elohim. So that's the word, that's the normal word for God that's used in the Hebrew Bible. When in Genesis 1:1, when it says, in the beginning God created the heaven and the earth, the word God right there is Elohim. And in Hebrew it looks like this. Hebrew is written right to left, and writing it in English letters looks something like that, Elohim. Now it is true that El can be used as a word for God, and was used in Hebrew as in other ancient Canaanite languages. For example, in phrases like El Shaddai or El Elyon. These are used in the Hebrew Bible from time to time, and it is a possible name for God, but the normal name for God in the Hebrew Bible is Elohim. Adonai is a word that is normally translated Lord. Now, what about what she says about Hashem? She says that the Hebrew Scriptures refer to this deity as Hashem. The Hebrew Scriptures never, ever refer to God as Hashem. That is a later Jewish way of speaking about God. Hashem literally means the name. Ha is the, name is Shem. And early on in Israelite history, it was perfectly normal for Jews to refer to God, and ancient Israelites, to refer to God by his name. Now, what was his name? This is a name that was revealed to Moses according to the book of Exodus, in Exodus chapter 3. And so she's right that this name, according to the Bible, the Hebrew Bible, was not revealed to the patriarchs, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, but it was revealed to Moses in Exodus chapter 3. And the ancient Hebrew was written only with consonants. The vowels obviously were pronounced, they just weren't written down. And the consonants that were used were these four right here. Whoops. Got them out of order. Okay, here we go. And this is Y, H, W, H. But remember, Hebrew is written right to left, so in English, this would be reversed and written this way, Y, H, W, H. Now, we're going to come back to that in a minute. So this is the name of God. So how is it pronounced? It turns out that it was pronounced regularly for centuries, over a millennium, I'm sure. But eventually, well into post-exilic Second Temple period times, it was still being pronounced. However, at some point during the Second Temple period, that is between, let's say the 6th century BCE and the 1st century CE, at some point towards the end of that period, people stopped pronouncing the name of God, presumably out of reverence for the name. And eventually, by the time of Jesus, for example, it was not common practice to pronounce the name of God. In fact, only the high priest, according to tradition, would pronounce the name of God once a year on the Day of Atonement, Yom Kippur, when he went in to make a sacrifice in the temple. And then after the temple was destroyed by the Romans, the ability or the custom of pronouncing the name was lost. That's not to say nobody ever pronounced it again. There are times in Jewish history where people did pronounce it. But remember that Hebrew was only written with consonants, and so we know that the four consonants of the name of God were Y, H, W, H. We just don't know what vowels went with them. Now, modern scholars have made an educated guess, and they suspect that the name was pronounced Yahweh, and perhaps it was. You see Yahweh mentioned very often in scholarly texts. Another version of the name that you see sometimes is Jehovah. And I'm sure you've all heard the name Jehovah. Where does that name come from? Well, let me say first of all that the ancient name of God was not Jehovah. It was never pronounced that way in ancient times. But it's a relatively modern invention from maybe the 16th century or so. And it came about because Christian scholars didn't understand the Hebrew text very well, and by this time the Hebrews had started writing vowel, not letters, but vowel points on around words to help pronounce it, to help with pronunciation, and they took the letters of YHWH, the letters of the name of God, and by this time the tradition among the Jews was that when they saw this word, they wouldn't say the name of God. They would say a different word. They would say Adonai, which I just mentioned a minute ago. Adonai is a different Hebrew word. And so what the Jewish scribes did was they took the letters of the consonants of the name of God and they inserted the vowels of Adonai. So they put something like that. And I think it's actually like that. At any rate, they inserted the vowels. And so when a Jewish scribe saw this word, they knew to pronounce Adonai. However, when Christians started learning to read Hebrew again, they saw this and they said, oh, this is the name of God, Yehovah. Yehovah. And so that's how they began to pronounce it. It was they combined the consonants of the name of God with the vowels of Adonai, which means Lord, and that's how they came to pronounce the name of God. And this is where we get the name Jehovah from. So, what about Hashem? Where does that come in? Well, as I said, when the tradition developed among the Jews not to pronounce the name of God anymore, one of the things that they did was they would use the word Adonai as a substitute. Well, that wasn't the only alternative they had. Sometimes instead of saying Adonai, they would say the name. And in Hebrew, the name is Hashem. And so in medieval Jewish writings, sometimes they actually write out Hashem when they're referring to God. So the Jews did write Hashem, and still to this day sometimes write or say Hashem for the name of God. It just means the name. Sometimes they say Adonai. The tradition in the synagogues is to say Adonai or occasionally Elohim when they run across the name of God. And in scholarly circles, those Jews who don't have any problem with it will sometimes pronounce the word Yahweh as Christian scholars and other scholars will as well. So that's a little bit on the name of God. And if you have any questions on it, feel free to bring it up in the discussion board or shoot me an email and I'll try to provide a little bit better explanation or more thorough explanation for you.